Taylor Swift stepped into the spotlight in a way that felt both cinematic and deeply personal as she arrived at the iconic Met Gala in New York City. And this time, she wasn't alone. By her side was Travis Kelce, not just as a date, but as her fiancé, a detail that quietly changed the entire emotional weight of the night. Taylor Swift has walked countless red carpets, owned global stages, and defined eras of music, but there was something undeniably different in the way she carried herself this time. There was a softness in her smile, a calm confidence that didn't feel performative. It felt real, and as cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing every angle, every glance, every subtle gesture, it became clear that this wasn't just another appearance. It was a moment fans had been waiting to feel, not just see. Travis Kelce, known for his larger-than-life presence on the field, brought a surprisingly grounded energy to the evening. Standing beside Taylor, he wasn't trying to outshine the moment or dominate it. Instead, he matched her pace, her energy, her quiet excitement. The way he looked at her, proud, slightly in awe, completely present, told a story no headline ever fully could. It wasn't staged affection. It was the kind of connection that shows up in small, almost unnoticeable details. A brief hand squeeze, a shared glance, a soft laugh exchange between flashes. As they moved together through the Met Gala crowd, surrounded by fashion's biggest names and global icons, the atmosphere seemed to shift around them. Conversations paused, attention redirected, not because they demanded it, but because their presence carried a narrative people were emotionally invested in. This wasn't just about fashion anymore. It was about a relationship that had grown in the public eye, evolving from curiosity to something undeniably meaningful. Taylor Swift, who has always turned her personal experiences into art, seemed to embody a new chapter without saying a single word. Her presence felt like a continuation of a story fans have been following for years, one that has seen heartbreak, growth, reinvention, and now, something that looks a lot like stability. And standing beside her, Travis Kelce represented a different kind of chapter altogether, one rooted not in mystery, but in openness. There was a natural rhythm between them, something that didn't feel rehearsed. Even in a setting as grand and overwhelming as the Met Gala, they appeared grounded in each other. And that's what made the moment resonate far beyond fashion commentary or celebrity headlines. It felt human. It felt relatable in a way that's rare at events designed to feel untouchable. For fans watching around the world, this wasn't just about seeing Taylor Swift attend another major event. It was about witnessing a version of her that felt settled yet still evolving. And Travis Kelce, stepping into that world so effortlessly, didn't feel like an outsider. He felt like someone who belonged there beside her. The night itself will be remembered for its fashion, its spectacle, its cultural significance. But for many, the real takeaway was something quieter, more emotional. It was the feeling of watching two worlds collide in the most natural way possible. Music and sports, fame and normalcy, individuality and partnership, all meeting on one red carpet. And as they disappeared further into the evening, leaving behind a trail of flashing cameras and viral moments, what lingered wasn't just how they looked, but how they felt together. In a place built on appearances, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce gave people something real to hold on to, even if just for a moment. Taylor Swift didn't rush out of the after-party the way many expected. Instead, she lingered, almost as if she understood that nights like this don't come around often. And when they do, you don't walk away too quickly. There was a shift in the room as the crowd slowly thinned, the music softened, and the conversations became more personal, more honest. It was no longer about who had arrived. It was about who chose to stay. Travis Kelce stayed close, but not in a way that felt overprotective or performative. He gave her space, yet somehow remained exactly where he needed to be. There were moments where he stepped back into conversations with others, laughing, listening, adapting to an environment far removed from the stadiums he dominates. But every so often, his attention returned to Taylor, almost instinctively, as if checking in without needing words. It was subtle, but it spoke volumes. Jason Kelce, still carrying the energy he brought earlier, began to slow down in a way that revealed a different side of him. The loud laughter softened into thoughtful exchanges, and the jokes gave way to stories, real ones. At one point, he was seen speaking with a small group, his expression shifting between smiles and something deeper, something reflective. It was the kind of moment that reminded everyone that behind the larger-than-life personality is someone who feels things just as intensely. Cara Delevingne, who had been the spark of the night earlier, now carried a calmer presence. She moved less, stayed longer in conversations, and seemed more invested in the people around her than the energy of the room itself. When she found herself near Taylor again, the interaction felt quieter this time, less about excitement and more about understanding. It was the kind of exchange that didn't need to be loud to be meaningful. Gigi had remained effortlessly composed, but there was a noticeable warmth in the way she engaged with others. She wasn't just observing anymore, she was part of the rhythm of the night. At one point, she joined a conversation with Taylor and Travis, and what stood out wasn't what was said, but how natural it all felt. No cameras, no expectations, just people sharing a moment that didn't need validation. Katy Perry, whose presence earlier had electrified the room, began to reveal a more grounded side. The bold energy gave way to something softer, something more introspective. When she crossed paths with Taylor again, there was a sense of mutual respect that didn't need to be explained. It wasn't about the past. It was about where they both stood now, in a space that felt honest and free from the weight of old narratives. As the night moved forward, the after-party began to feel less like an event and more like a memory in the making. The music, once loud and commanding, became a backdrop to conversations that felt increasingly real. People sat closer, leaned in more, and spoke in ways that suggested they weren't ready for the night to end. Taylor Swift, in particular, seemed to embrace this shift completely. She wasn't moving through the room anymore. She was part of it, sitting, listening, occasionally laughing in a way that felt unguarded. She appeared more like someone enjoying a rare moment of normalcy than a global icon. There was a certain peace in her presence, something that suggested she wasn't thinking about what came next, but simply allowing herself to exist in the moment. Travis Kelce mirrored that energy in his own way. He wasn't trying to match the atmosphere. He was becoming part of it. Whether it was a quiet conversation with someone new or a shared moment with Taylor, he carried a calm that grounded everything around him. For someone stepping into a world so different from his own, he didn't just adapt. He belonged. Jason Kelce, meanwhile, found himself at the center of a smaller, more intimate group, where the energy had shifted from celebration to connection. His voice, once the loudest in the room, now carried a different weight. It wasn't about being heard. It was about being understood. And in that space, he seemed completely at ease. Cara Delevingne and Katy Perry eventually drifted back into the same orbit, but this time, the energy was different. There was less movement, less spectacle, and more presence. Gigi had joined them briefly, and for a moment, it felt like the night had come full circle. Different personalities, different energies, all finding a balance that didn't feel forced. What made this part of the night so powerful wasn't anything dramatic or headline-worthy. It was the absence of all that. It was the quiet, the stillness, the sense that something genuine was happening in a space usually defined by appearances. It was a reminder that even in the most glamorous settings, the moments that matter are often the simplest ones. As the final guests began to leave, there was no rush, no urgency, just a gradual understanding that the night had reached its natural end. Taylor Swift stood once more, taking in the room not as someone who owned it, but as someone who had shared it. Travis Kelce joined her, their presence once again aligned, not for the cameras, but for each other. Jason Kelce followed, still carrying that same warmth, while Cara Delevingne, Gigi Hadid, and Katy Perry each moved toward their own exits, leaving behind traces of a night that felt far more meaningful than anyone had expected. And as the doors finally closed, what remained wasn't just the memory of who was there, but how it all felt. A night that started with spectacle ended with something far more lasting: connection, understanding, and a quiet kind of magic that doesn't need to be seen to be remembered.